It's not that I'm that much more strict or disciplined or committed. I anchored that memory of what my life looked like with my babies beforehand. And
Yes.
I said, is it worth today to give up tomorrow with them?
Hey, what's up, family? I'm Rachel, and I'm one half of Two Crazy Ketos. Joe is on the other side of the camera today. We are at KetoCon, and we've got the awesome opportunity to check in with this amazing couple. We want to introduce you to them. Wait till you hear their story. Okay, so we are here with Mary and Andy. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? First of all, like, where can people find you? Because you're actually just getting started on YouTube.
This is brand new to us. We've been on Instagram the last couple of years, KetoLifeOnTour. I was Mary's Fat Macros until a year ago, and our whole kind of life and brand changed. And so we're venturing into YouTube, following you two, and definitely chasing down what this incredible community can do by being part of that information. And so Keto Life on Tour on YouTube as of yesterday, I think. As
so
well.
exciting!
Brand new. Babies.
So tell us a little bit about how you came to find keto.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where you think about how much your life has changed because one day you gave up sugar and some processed carbs.
It's a lot.
Had no idea my life was going to look this different 4 years later. But in 2018, I've been 300 pounds for about 20 years. It was just where I lived. And I started really having a lot of health issues after my second child was born. We have 5 kids, 9 and under.
Yay!
Including keto twins that came along the way. And I got diagnosed with one thing after another. And every single diagnosis came with a prescription. It came with medication. It came with things that caused issues where it's like, well, this one's actually going to cause insomnia, so now you're on Ambien, and the Ambien makes you tired, so we're going to put, and just one thing after another. And it was the first time that I couldn't say, I'm healthy in this body. I was obviously having problems.
Because something that you said earlier was really interesting, and I think it resonates with a lot of people, and that is you were 300 pounds, but you were healthy 300 pounds. And I think a lot of us felt like, hey, I'm really strong. I can do what I need to do. I'm, working. I'm taking care of the kids. I'm 300 pounds, but maybe I don't have high blood pressure, or I am not a type 2 diabetic yet. So so that was something that you started out, you felt healthy and good to start with.
Yeah, I mean, I was in my late 20s. I'd always been fat healthy is kind of my thought process. And I kind of just assumed that would continue to go, that was just the trajectory I was on, that I could just live that way. And it was kind of like the world and my body let me know that wasn't true. I think the other really important part of that was it's all I'd ever known. So I didn't know how depleted I was. I didn't know how tired I was. I didn't know that it didn't make sense for me to need that much caffeine in coffee, or that I shouldn't get that overtired with basic things. But I'd never known anything different. I thought that everybody else experienced this in their bodies too.
Absolutely.
And so I went into the doctor, and it was kind of a final straw. I was, having a lot of these issues with fibromyalgia. I was spending about 2 weeks a month in bed, homeschooling my kids from my king size bed, and just struggling with the day to day. And I walked in, and he diagnosed me as pre-diabetic, put me on metformin, and then he said, he's like, I'm going to sign you up for weight loss surgery. And he was like, I'm going to put you on this list. Within 10 minutes of leaving, I was getting call after call after call. And it's not that I don't think that that's a phenomenal tool that can be used, but for me, I went, I'm not doing anything in my life that would maintain that. If I did that tomorrow, there's nothing that would keep that off. I haven't made changes in my life in a really long time, and I need to address why.
That is an amazing understanding to come to. I think a lot of people are like, maybe I can just get rid of this, and then the issue will go away, and then I will deal with what was the root of the problem later on. And I think it's really wise that you were like, no, let's go ahead and head to the root and not just keep dealing with the fruit of the issue.
Absolutely.
So how did you come to keto for helping with that?
Absolutely. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't have a name for it. I walked out of the doctor, hysterics, and I called my older sister. She's 10 years older than me. She's one of my very best friends. And she's like, Mary, you're addicted to sugar and carbs. You're addicted. You've never given them up. It doesn't matter what thing you've done, if you've done shakes or Weight Watchers or whatever. I was the girl that figured out how to eat the brownies.
Yes.
I was the girl that was like, I will always, focus on these things that I really want out of this. And I never really fully committed. And so cold turkey that day, didn't have a word for it, couldn't call it keto, stopped eating sugar and processed carbs.
There weren't any snacks
it was
available
meat
at that time.
and vegetables, and then eventually I learned about adding fat, and eventually I learned that I could do some other things. Eventually I realized some of the dairy products that worked for me and some that didn't. And I started kind of going down this path, and I was sicker than a dog. I didn't know about electrolytes, but none of those things were there. But I just said, I can't go back. And it was probably 40 pounds in the first 3.5 months. And I was
Wow.
like, this is working. This is the first thing that I've been able to eat from a grocery store. I'm not shipping or ordering something coming in a package.
That's amazing.
To make my body skinny.
Yeah.
It was, I'm going to the grocery store and I'm shopping for foods that make me feel good, and my body is responding to real food.
So how long had you guys been together by the time she comes to the keto diet?
It was 7 years?
8
years?
9 years that
Right.
we've been together. I'm trying to think. Penny wasn't born yet?
No.
So it was 2018 and we've been together since 2009.
Yeah,
So 9 years.
So you've probably seen her, go through a lot of different things of like, okay, I'm going to, maybe do a diet for just like a little bit or something, tap in and out. And now you see she is just like all in for this. And it is changing not just her life, but like the grocery bill and like what she's doing. What was your response when she said, hey, I'm going to stop eating carbs and I'm going to, go heavy on fat and stuff? What did you think?
I think I've always been like, okay, like if there's something new that you're learning, like let's do this. And my attitude was, you do whatever makes you feel good. Like I love it when Mary feels good.
Yeah.
I don't care what she looks like, but I notice that when she feels good, our whole lives go better.
Happy
And
wife,
so
happy life.
I'm all like, do what makes you feel good. But then I was still kind of like, but I really like pizza and I'm going to keep doing this. So we did do the double
lives.
meals and double lives for a while.
For 3 years.
For 3 years.
3
yeah.
years.
3 years.
I'm
It
just going to
was a
look
long
directly
time.
at the camera. Different meals. Don't do it that long.
And we
Fed
had
my kids differently than I did.
Right.
Just to give you like we had all the stuff available in our house, and she didn't cheat. She didn't go off plan. She was militant. She was committed. There was discipline. She made the choice very early on, and then just managed that choice in the face of all of us not really being on board. No, we weren't like saying you shouldn't do this, but we just weren't like all of us and the kids. We weren't like, oh yeah, let's also have bacon and avocado.
It
Wow.
was still cereal and Pop-Tarts and pizza and the
Cookies
thing.
and-
Every night.
yep.
Every day by me. I made 2 meals.
So I think that that's really a testimony of your marriage, though, that you both loved each other, so much that you were willing to encourage her, and you were like, you don't have to change, to start with, and you allowed him to kind of come to the decision himself, because a lot of times people are like, I'm not going to stick to it unless everything is eliminated, and if you want to do something for your health, sometimes you have to prioritize yourself.
Absolutely.
And put your air mask on first before you
Yes.
put everybody's air mask on. But that is so wonderful that you supported her even during this. Did you see yourself starting to change as a mom as you got yourself healthy?
It was one of the things that I could not have known before I knew it. And I always say, I'm like, I can't have guilt or shame for not making these decisions earlier, because
No.
you don't know what you don't know. And
That's
I
right.
didn't know what I knew until I knew it. And when I realized that I could go on adventures with my kids, I could take them out into the world.
Yes.
We didn't need to live in front of a TV with Cheetos and pizza. We were able to start to do things and accomplish things. I was able to keep up and show up in a way that I never had as a parent up until that point.
And that feels very empowering, because we will make mistakes as parents. That's just
Absolutely.
going to happen. But if you're like, gosh, I just played with you on the playground and I have this memory, instead of I'm on the bench telling you, go have a good time.
Yes.
That just makes you feel so great as a mom.
It really did.
So you started to have some amazing results. Mm-hmm. Were you able to start paring down the medication?
So I was off everything. By the time I had 9 medications, within 9 months I was off everything, including the prediabetes, anything that they'd been using for the fibromyalgia. My flare-ups went from, if I really go hard, I really overdo it, that means 3 days of hiking 6 or 7 miles in the mountains with my kids in Yellowstone or Tetons. It was a very different, it wasn't, oh, we were at a baseball game today and I'm down for 2 weeks. It was, we went hard, and so the next day my body just needs a little extra rest, but without medication, without pain pills, without all these things. And so 9 months in, I'd lost 60 pounds. We went on a huge trip, 21 days, all over. I was like, I want to go to all the national parks. I've never been to any of them, and I never had the desire to be outdoors and have adventures. And so we went for 21 days. We came back pregnant. Don't know how that happens. And so we found out 6 months into that pregnancy it was twins.
Oh my gracious.
And I had no idea I could do a keto pregnancy at that point. I did not. The day I left the hospital, I was back to my starting weight. The 2018 leaving the doctor's office weight to the 10th of a pound.
Oh my goodness.
And it was a really hard moment, because I remember just they weighed me before I left, and I just remember I started bawling, and I'm like, I didn't want to see that number ever again. Mm-hmm. But there was this within seconds I went, I've already done it once, I know I can do it.
Oh, that's so good.
So it was
And the results. We knew the results would be worth it.
I knew it would be worth it. I knew I was capable of it, and I could do it all over again. Mm-hmm. And so the day that I found out I was pregnant, exactly a year later, I'm like, it's time to go back.
Wow.
It's been 1 year to the date from the day I took that positive pregnancy test, and I lost 125 pounds in the next 13 months. And
so it can be done.
It can be done. I was, same thing, weighed and measured and did all the things, but I had one meal that was off in that entire time. And I tell people this all the time, and I was like, and I'm not trying to be bad. I think it's just, I have a perspective on this. I've had one meal that wasn't keto friendly, and it was in July of 2020. It was the last time I ate a non-keto food.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, and I was like, it's not that I'm that much more strict or disciplined or committed. I anchored that memory of what my life looked like with my babies beforehand. And
Yes.
I said, is it worth today to give up tomorrow with them?
Oh, that's so good.
Is it worth this pizza or this chicken finger or whatever to know that tomorrow I'm not going to be able to keep up with my kids, that I'm going to be tired and dragged out and exhausted? I never want to parent from bed again.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yes. You don't need to parent from bed again. That is really exciting. Now, at the time, were you living in an RV?
So no, that came with the adventure mom. My girls call me adventure mom now. They're like, Mom, you're going so hard. But my husband had come home from the corporate world. We decided we wanted to raise these babies together. We have 5 of them. We want to homeschool together. And so we started kind of getting connected with this keto community. And it actually wasn't until you heard from some of our friends and saw some of the other people's stories. My story wasn't quite enough that you said, I'm all in. And in 2 months, this is not normal. These are not normal results. In 2 months, you went keto and lost almost 50 pounds.
Wow.
And did it overnight.
Didn't
just
even
went
know
for
I had
it.
it to lose. I
Yes.
didn't believe that I had it to lose, but I did.
No, it was
Yeah.
amazing. Like, yeah, you've always looked great, but like it was just there from 10 years of comfy marriage. We call it love weight.
Well, and okay, so Joe lost first and then I lost.
Okay.
And that is very difficult. It's almost like I feel like it's a better experience if like you can get where you want and then I can cheer you on, because it is not uncommon for guys to lose a lot on the scale first.
Yes.
Women tend to lose, inches.
And bloating
and it's very, very challenging. But like, so once you went keto, what were you thinking as you did this? Like, oh my goodness, I'm doing this. Did you look back at all, or were you determined?
Anymore now, and as I was going through it, we keep talking like, how could we ever go back and do what we did? And it's been a process, and I think it's important to understand it is absolutely a process. You have to learn bit by bit, day by day, and you have to take it step by step. We didn't do all the things that we do now, and we don't have all the tricks and all of the habits and all of the cool things that we can just throw together, and it looks very easy now.
Right.
But in the beginning, we had to pick a few things that we liked, that worked for us, and then we had to build on our skill set. So it was like learning any new skill set. And so now we go, we'll never go back. We can't go to feeling that way. We can't do that to our family and our lifestyle. We need to show our kids that they've got these results now, and it's worth fighting for, and it's worth keeping those results.
What are some of the things that helped you stick to it as you were getting started?
I think for me in particular, I'm like, I will snack. And because I have the latitude, like I think my metabolism, my body, I could totally go and cheat if I wanted to, and it probably wouldn't throw me off that bad. But it's one of those slight edge things, right? It's like, okay, I'll have a Twizzler at the swim meet, but then now I've got cravings and I'm gonna want ice cream and I'm gonna wanna go over calorie and all of those things that I know. So it's just easier for me. I think we cleared out the house. We only buy like stuff that we know is gonna be good, and some of it's kind of treats. Some of it's the Rebel ice cream or whatever. Like some of it's the fun stuff. Some of it's the Keto Chat, right? But I know now that I've got guidelines and I've got my bumpers in place, so I can have a little bit of fun and not be like crazy, right?
So what was the kids' response? So it's like, it's so good. Mom and dad are on the same page and they're happy together and they're a couplehood. Are the kids like, yay, or were they upset?
Okay, so we were a little sneaky, and so this is where the RV comes in. We were going down to the Keto Orlando conference last year, and we had just bought the RV. I flew Andy home, and I stayed and I socialized with my friends and kept the weekend going, and he drove back on the inaugural kind of ride of the RV and brought the kids down to Florida.
Okay.
And so we're at the beach. The sun is shining. It doesn't get much better if you're a kid. And we kind of took a look at this opportunity and said, we're going to be on the road for 2 months. What if nothing else was in there? What if we took all the fun treats and all these brands that we just learned about and all these sponsors from this conference, and Erica Bell, who runs the Keto Orlando conference, set us up. We had stuff like Keto Chow in the RV, but we completely packed it front to back, and we showed that process with keto-friendly fun food and just made the swaps. We got low-carb tortillas, we got low-carb buns, we got low-carb bread, but we also got Monk Pack granola bars instead of Chewy granola bars. We bought like High-Lows instead of Doritos. We just started doing some things, and they didn't know they're young enough, and then we are in a special spot. They're young enough that we were able to make all those switches, fill the RV, and when we got home, none of our food was good. Oh my gosh, oh no, the Oreos went bad.
Right. It's very nice to like leverage a change in life to be able to do things differently.
Yeah.
And you know, when you have one of those moments like, hey, it's summer, let's change everything because it's different than school year, you know, or we're going back to school and now is the time. So there are ways that you can kind of leverage transition in order to get your kids off. Because a lot of parents are like, man, I would love to do this, but I don't know how that, you know, would incorporate it. I cannot live RV, so I can't use the RV transition necessarily, but use a transition of some sort to be able to get your kids transitioned. And they were fine.
They were fine. And it was one of those things where we started having discussions about how our bodies feel.
Yes.
I was very honest about how my body felt for so long and why I made the choices that I made and some of the fun things that I've been able to do. And it's really interesting. I have a couple of kids who don't remember anything else. And so they see pictures and that's not you. That can't be you. They just don't have that. And I'm like, I had so much guilt for so long that I had somehow ruined, like I think especially my two oldest, like childhood, that it hadn't been special and magical. And I was like,
that can't be true because they have you as a mother.
Oh, you're so sweet.
So that's not true.
There just wasn't enough fun and adventure, and that because I didn't feel my best, but same thing, like I said earlier, didn't know I didn't feel my best, didn't know I could feel differently.
Right.
And so they were so supportive of me even out loud working through it. I have 4 girls and a boy.
We verbally
said
gone through your mental process with how you feel with our older kids. And I think they've really picked up on that.
And just talked about some of the struggles I dealt with as a little girl with my body and some of the things that I realized were so silly that people pointed out with my body that if I had learned to just love on it and take care of me instead of listening to the rest of the world, I probably wouldn't have gotten to that place.
Well, and it's probably a great thing to be vulnerable with your kids because it's not just like, you know, a quality talk, but it is a quantity talk. And you get used to dialoguing, and that takes practice. So going ahead and journaling, you know, with them in conversations really helps them to kind of like develop their own sense of like their body and how they feel about it and how they feel about the fuel they put into it. And so I think that that's really awesome for you to help them kind of process through that together.
Well, for example, they've kind of had a few times where they've been worried about the number on the scale, you know, 9 and 8 years old. And we've just said, okay, let's think about the logic. You're growing. Look how tall we are.
Yeah,
look at how tall we are.
As tall as us
you're
yet.
going to get taller. What is the logic of you worrying about the number on the scale when you know you're going to get bigger? And like it's just, and so we've kind of had to like walk them through some of this where if we hadn't had those conversations, maybe that thought process would have gone off track. Without without anybody even trying to. It's so easy for that to happen. So a lot of what we do with the kids is not forcing it on them, but having the conversation, like when you're out in the world, when you're at grandma's house or you know, at your friend's house or at a birthday party, and you want to make these choices. This is kind of the thought process that you need to go through. And if you still want to eat that thing or that piece of cake because you're at the party and go ahead and do that. This is part of you learning to make great decisions for yourself.
That is awesome.
And we've had situations where they came home and they said, I feel terrible, my stomach hurts, whatever. And we go, just remember that, and that's okay.
Drink some water, have some electrolytes, you'll get through it.
We're not going to keep it in the house. And being a homeschool family and both of us being home full time, we do get to decide what goes on the plates about 85% of the time.
Well, and the way we eat helps with mental clarity. So when you're making these decisions, you're making decisions from a point of clarity, not because you're like hangry and you're having to make kind of a knee-jerk, you know, decision like what is speaking to me? Is the sugar craving speaking to me? Or, you know, is this a decision like I choose this? So it's really nice for the kids to be able to choose those things for themselves and then determine, okay, I feel a difference, good or bad, when I eat certain foods.
And it's just helping them to be mindful and notice those differences. Like I've noticed a huge change since we started this. They will come to us and say, oh, I think I overate, or I think I shouldn't have eaten some, or I'm still hungry actually. And being able to just honestly have those conversations and move forward together as a family has been really great.
So now one summer has changed into like a life on the road.
Yes, so that was last year. We're on the road and we really enjoyed it. We had such a fun time. We traveled all over, couldn't stop. We were in Florida. How do you go home from Florida, right? That's how you all end up living there, right? And so I had gotten really vulnerable on my Instagram, and then I had really started sharing a lot on Clubhouse and was speaking more on the mindset side. And kind of the marriage between my body and my mind for the first time in my life, and like understanding my identity as somebody who wasn't the fat girl, who wasn't the fat sister, who wasn't the fat kid, like all those things. And I'm like, this isn't my identity anymore. And really processed that all out loud and got very connected with friends in the keto community. And I started sharing their stories like 3 days a week in the middle of the day for 2 hours, and sharing keto people's stories on Clubhouse.
Yes.
And I fell in love with them. I fell in love with these, I call them like, the micro influencers, 1,500, mom who's lost 60 pounds at home, who has 1,500 followers and who shared it out loud. And I fell in love with how, when they decided to lose the weight, their life gained so much.
Yes.
And I wanted to know what it gained. I wanted to know the things that changed, that they had access to, that they didn't in the body that was restricted. And I think people talk about this being a restrictive diet. And I'm like, my life was restricted when I was 300 pounds. My life was restricted when I couldn't ride on roller coasters with my kids. That was this isn't restrictive.
Yes.
This is freedom. And so I started sharing those stories like 3 days a week. We had bought the RV, and we kind of like had this conversation. I'm like, what if we went and shared it in real life? What if we showed up in their homes? What if we sat down with their kids and asked their kids how it's changed them? What if we started sharing stories of these people that we love, that have motivated me and inspired me, that I would hop on this app and talk to them. And I was like, man, I was having a rough day going into this. I'm going out feeling like I can do anything because they can do anything.
Wow.
And so
The
it kind of,
community piece of it, I think, super important.
huge for us.
Yeah.
Huge for us. And so that's where it kind of came from. And so I went from Mary's Fat Macros on my Instagram and went to Keto Life on Tour. We showed the whole process of kind of taking the kids and packing up this we went from our 3,600 square foot house to 300 square feet, and how we still cooked 3 square meals a day for 7 of us, and hit the road and started sharing stories.
So when people say it's hard being a family, it's hard cooking for kids, you're doing it like in a tiny space compared to where a lot of people have to do it, but you're still making it happen every single day. And you kind of swapped out like the treats that the kids are used to for adventure. So the kids get to see places that they've never seen. So it's like they're not living like a deprived life.
No, I don't think
it's reminding them of that. Like, hey,
childhood.
Because we eat this way, because we make these decisions purposely, look at everything we get to do.
Yeah.
Like, we're out there doing these things.
Mommy gets to go to the Tetons with you and climb a mountain next month, and we're going to do this waterfall hike, and we're going to zip line in Costa Rica in January, and we're going to do all these things. I'm like, this wasn't possible until Mommy found food freedom.
Yeah.
Until Mommy was able to do big things for our household and invest in our diet instead of our healthcare. Like, this was these huge swaps, and we talked like that with them. And I think that especially my 8-year-old has been really interesting, has such a really important and impactful, I think, conversation about these things, where she asks hard questions.
Yes.
And she asked what it felt like, and she asked if I ever felt certain ways as a kid that she's experiencing. And I said yes, and the difference was, and like, somebody wouldn't put a salad on my plate, or took me to a Weight Watchers meeting as a little girl, instead of talking to me about how beautiful and important my body was, and the way I could treat it kindly and with love. And I think that we hope that having this community, because sometimes we need y'all. I mean, I think that that's an important part of it, is we've brought our kids to Erica Bell's house. We went to Friendsgiving with Judith, and we got to sit down with her and her daughter and have these conversations in a different way. And I think that we need other people loving on and inspiring and motivating and being there for our whole family. And that's why this connection is so important, and that's why we do what we do now.
So tell us again, before we go, where can we find you?
KetoLifeOnTour is our handle for everything now, and so our Instagram, now our YouTube. I was not expecting it to go up live this week, and he was like, I'm doing it. So starting today, and so KetoLifeOnTour is kind of our whole all-encompassing brand, and we really hope to see you all in a city. And we put it out on Instagram ahead of time. We're headed to these 4 states in the next 2 months, and people just flood us with, come here, we'll cook for you, we'll bake with you, we'll do this.
We're not very structured, so like we just kind of bounce around and go wherever it takes us.
I map
Which
out
is
all our
so
friends.
fun.
Yes. And we
Man.
don't know where we're going to be next, but we do at least the next day, where you say, okay, we're headed through this city, anybody here? And we get all these amazing responses, and we show up at their homes or their businesses, their companies, their whatever, and we say, thank you for supporting this keto community. Can I share who you are and how this has changed your life?
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey. So that's going to be our video for today. If you like videos like this, check out one we've got right over here, or check out the latest one that's going to be right over here. But whether you head this way or you head this way, don't forget to head this way. Subscribe to our channel and click the little bell icon, and that way every single time we make new friends, you'll be alerted to it. And until next time, bye!